enterprise is all the rage. But put the hype aside. How are today's organizations actually executing and seeing value from enterprise AI? Dataiku is the platform, democratizing access to data and enabling companies to build their own path to enterprise AI. To make enterprise AI a reality, Dataiku provides one simple user interface for data preparation, data exploration, automated machine learning, model deployment, AI monitoring, and management. Dataiku is built for everyone, with robust features for both the code-free and the code-first. From business users and analysts to data scientists and engineers, Dataiku makes working with data faster and smarter. Each company's path to enterprise AI looks different, so Dataiku supports the creation of a spectrum of applications. Whether that means building out a self-serve analytics platform or fully operationalized AI integrated with business processes. No matter what the underlying changes in architecture or advancements in technology, Dataiku remains at the center, the cornerstone of data governance and responsible AI. Dataiku's centralized, controlled, and elastic environment fuels exponential growth in the amount of data, the number of AI projects, and the number of people contributing to such projects. Dataiku, for every industry, every use case, and also for everyone. Discover your path to enterprise AI at dataiku.com.
Good morning, everybody. How are you all today? Good, great, fine. Yeah, so that's lovely to see. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Maha, and I'm part of the digital transformation team within Alpha Data. This pandemic has brought about changes in all our lives in different ways. But there's one thing that's common for all of us. Yes, it's the digital transformation journey. We have all embarked on that journey, though the scale might be different. For some, it's little, and for some, it's a lot. That being said, we come across so many developments and progresses in different industries and verticals, and some technologies have disrupted in a big way. One such technology is artificial intelligence, or most popularly called as AI. Before we get into any further details of this, let me quickly introduce the team that is present today. We have with us Mrs. Geetika Sood, who is the head of the digital transformation practice at Alpha Data. She has over 25 years of experience and has pioneered in cutting-edge technologies and has been instrumental in driving disruptive technology in the region as well. We have Nikhil, who is also from Alpha Data, who is an analyst in the data science perspective. We have Chad with us, who is the subject matter expert from Dataiku, and he's going to be showing some key use cases along with us today. We have Sid, who is the regional vice president at Dataiku, and Suvir, who's the partner sales manager from Dataiku. Without much further ado, I hand it over to Geetika. Over to you, Geetika.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Great. It's yet again my pleasure to have a rendezvous with all of you again. How are you doing on the digital acceleration journey? I hope you're doing great. It's always a pleasure to share more insights with you. And today, what we've got for you is slightly different yet again. We're going to walk you through some live demos along with our prestigious partner, Dataiku, who are leaders as per Gartner in data science and AI space. We're going to share some success stories, and our team is going to walk you through some demos and live use cases. So without further ado, let's just get into, I always love to start with a video. So here you go. Great. I hope that was audible. And I really hope that it has pepped you up on Thursday morning. Now, what we're trying to show you is the similarity of how Dubai has transformed in last couple of years and how cutting edge technologies have transformed in a similar way. We're at the edge of technology and a lot of disruption has happened. I mean, thanks to COVID, in a way, it has accelerated the digital acceleration. I'm sure you will agree, yeah? And what we're trying to show is as similar to, how the country has transformed at the edge, being pioneers, whether it is blockchain or having an MOAI committee for, ministry, as well as paperless office initiative, as well as any other initiative on the digital side. Similar to that, we as Alpha Data have also embraced this journey, have transformed with our partners like Dataiku, and we're very happy to tell you and endorse you that we are here to partner with you, to help you to get AI into your DNA, to differentiate you in the market. Where is the breaking down on the AI thinking happening? It's a new paradigm, right? Realignments have happened. COVID has disrupted stuff. A lot of things have accelerated. You need to gear up for the businesses more. I want you to just think on, particular statistics. This is one of the charts from Gartner, which reinforces that data and artificial intelligence are at the center of the future of intelligence. And this is not just us endorsing it, this is also being endorsed by all the leading Gartners and the Forresters and the IDCs, right? And if you look at it, all the pervasive analytics, the AI-based automation, they steal the show. And I'm sure you want to be at the pinnacle of driving this as well. And that's where our theme of today's session, as Maha said, is really about empowering you as businesses and as IT in terms of taking that AI roadmap ahead with very pragmatic, quick wins, which we are going to showcase today in the live demos with a couple of use cases. Another one, to just get your design thinking in place, I want you to just look at this video and see the AI scaling and the use case that's happening. There is a lot of data explosion that has happened. Use cases have emerged. One use case is connected to multiple other use cases, and so on, as you can see in the image here. And as a result, what you need to do is you also need to have data sets, models, and AI scale accordingly. And that's the theme of our diving into AI with you, to scale AI along with Dataiku. So this is what reconfirms the statistics again. AI, no doubt, is being endorsed again and vouched by 84% of the C-level executives as per the latest statistics. And 3/4 of the executives again say that, AI is not being able to scale to next 5 years to the kind of capability they need to. And they are all struggling. 76% are struggling. So those who are scaling AI, they really need at least a multiplication of 3x, basically, for their AI investments to unleash the potential. And that's where the theme of our seminar and the session today is going to resonate. I'm going to come back to the session where I take you through the demo and the use cases, and we'll do a role play within my team. But at this point, let me hand over to Siddharth Bhatia. We call him Sid, who's basically leading the entire region in terms of Dataiku, and he will share his thought leadership, and then we get into the live use cases. Over to you, Sid. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope you can do. You're doing well today, and I hope you can, hear me well as well. Now,
Sure,
I don't know how many of you know about Dataiku, but Dataiku is a world-leading AI and machine learning platform organization. We're a Gartner leader for 2 years in a row now, supporting agility in the organization's efforts to, collaborate using responsible AI at enterprise level. What that really basically converts into is that at its core, Dataiku believes that in order to stay relevant in this changing world today, a company needs to harness enterprise AI as a widespread organizational asset instead of siloing it to certain people. If you look at Dataiku, our philosophy really is that machine learning and AI has to be a team sport. It should not be restricted just to a particular set of people, but it has to be democratized across the organization. To make this a reality, what Dataiku provides is a very simple single user interface for everything that you can imagine, right from data wrangling to mining, to visualization, to machine learning and deployment, which is based on collaborative team-based features, so that everybody in the organization, be it a data scientist, data analyst, or a data engineer, can work on it. So as you see on the slide as well, the fact remains that if you look at different personas on one side and the journey on the other side, if you look at business analyst, a business analyst speaks a different language than a data scientist as compared to a data engineer. So let's look at a business analyst, for example. A business analyst is speaking the language of a Power BI, a Tableau, or an Excel sheet. A data scientist speaks coding language, right? I mean, he's speaking R and Python and Scala and all of that. And if you look at the data engineer, he's creating data pipelines. And if everybody is focused on a different aspect of the machine learning journey or the other axis, the problem is silos of data get created. And if silos of data get created with people not having a common understanding, the problem is that you're not able to scale AI within your organization. And this is where the positioning of Dataiku comes to the fore. So look at Dataiku as one platform for the entire organization where the business analyst can work, the data scientist can work, the data engineer can work, but you can also work on the entire journey, be it on the data prep side, modeling side, or deployment side. So on the next slide, this one, what we're trying to portray is look at Dataiku from an architectural perspective as an orchestrator, an orchestration layer sitting right at the center. On one side, as you see on the right-hand side top, you have access to all the infrastructure. So all the investments that you make on the side, for example, on the data warehouse side, you want to leverage that architecture or leverage that infrastructure to scale. On the left-hand side, you see latest and greatest when it comes to the skills that you might have already invested in. I'm sure there are Python champions and Scala champions and people who like working on SQL. So all the skills that you already have can very easily be transferred onto Dataiku, because Dataiku offers this interface where you can work with a lot of open source tools. On the left-hand side bottom, you see the latest and greatest advancements in technology when it comes to open source. So be it H2O, TensorFlow, Scikit-learn, Keras, all the latest and greatest machine learning algorithms are packaged within the Dataiku interface. And on the right-hand side bottom, information delivery, be it integrating with Esri or integrating with any kind of front-end BI tools, all the great work you've done, you can now package it and integrate with your front-end BI tool. So which means what? We're leveraging all the infrastructure that you already have, you've invested in. We are making the most of open source, and all the skills that you already have in your organization can be leveraged as well. So this is basically an architecture that is not just built for today, but for tomorrow as well. Now, if you look at the Gartner report, because I think you must look at the Gartner report that came out about 2 weeks back now. And for 2 years in a row, we are sitting in the leaders quadrant. And even if you look at the Gartner peer insights, there are about 84 insights or reviews that have happened this year. And on a scale of 5, we have been rated 4.9. And again, we're working with a lot of partners, including Alpha Data here in the region, one of our strategic partners, and we love to go to market with them. And on the left-hand side, you see that we are not restricted to a particular industry. We're working with a lot of customers worldwide, including manufacturing, financial services, technology companies. We've got close to about 20, 25 customers here in the region and about 400 customers worldwide. The next slide would give you an idea in terms of key snippets that we've taken from our customers. And I don't want to get into the details of this, but if you look at Aviva, for example, just an example at the organizational level, they have 5x more efficient workflows now. And we've got quotations from our customers that something that took 3 days to deploy can be actually be delivered in 3 hours now. So regionally, we're working with a lot of airlines, a lot of banks. We've got some amazing public sector organizations who've invested in Dataiku and are standardizing their machine learning and AI efforts. So the intention of this forum really is to demonstrate this to you. And this is where Jad steps in from our team to actually go do a quick demo on a couple of use cases because seeing is believing. So with that, I'll probably stop talking and hand it over. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sid. That was great, as always. Great. So now it's the best part of the entire demo section where we're going to walk you through the use cases, do some role plays as my team, and give you a real feel of the entire tool itself. Now, one thing we need to add here as well, there are quizzes and prizes as giveaways and vouchers as cash vouchers, which will be passed on email to most of the customers who answer those quiz questions. Great. Great. So now, guys, I hope you're excited. So far, so good. Feel free to interject. What we've got here for you today is a bunch of, data management experts, right? I'm one of the key stakeholders. We are doing a bit of a storytelling play so that you can articulate and relate to it. We've got Maha here, who's been already introduced to you. She's a business analyst. And actually in her previous profile, she's been doing a lot of business analysis, but also she's been having a pain of ETL. I hope you know what is ETL, extract, transform, and load. So she's been working, and she'll describe that shortly. We've got data scientist here as Nikhil, who's actually been writing a lot of codes, including Python, R, and he will talk more about it. And we've got our senior data engineers, Nagesh and Nidhi, with 16 plus years experience in big data and data engineering. Now, resonating with what Sid was saying earlier, in a traditional way, data preparation, modeling, data science, data wrangling, and obviously the ETL are a couple of different hats, right? And each one of us need to pitch in different areas with complex scenarios. And if I had a problem statement, I would deal very differently in a legacy way. Now, I want to also hand over to Nikhil. Nikhil, please unmute yourself and talk about the use cases in AI that you've been literally engaged on as a coder, as a developer, and as a data scientist. And then we come back to the role play with the live demo.
Thank you, Geetika. I hope everyone's doing well. So as we know, AI has just been exploding onto the scene. However, what industries actually use to to explain uh, to explain what industries would use AI for, we have a couple of use cases over here. So let's look at, for example, pricing. So optimal pricing, depending upon customer profile, requires a lot of data that helps you set a price that would help your organization to get the maximum results. Similarly, with marketing targeting, you have online activities, social activity to look at. And that's really where having better data helps you to target the right customer. When you look at fraud detection in an industry such as finance, it's very important to monitor transactions, to look at trends for AML as well. So these are all use cases that I've worked on myself. To speak a bit from my personal experience, I worked in the field of stock market index prediction, and over there, we were able to use AI use cases in order to develop a model to predict when to buy and sell stocks. So these are just a few of the various use cases that we can help with. And I'd like to
Sure.
hand you to Geetika for.
Thank you. So this is really coming from the real experience that Nikhil has as part of my team. Now, guys, here is one scenario that we're going to take you through and walk you through the entire demo. Let me describe the problem statement. Let's get into the objective, and let's discuss different scenarios and how Dataiku deals with it. We'll try our best to do justice to it and then follow it up with a detailed end-to-end demo of the entire tool with a use case from Jad. What's the business problem? So we will imagine that there's an organization which has got multiple branches in the city, and it's got difficulty in predicting what's the supply storage that it needs to accumulate, what kind of resources it needs to have. So forecasting revenue per store to allow adequate staff and supply allocation is my problem statement or an objective. And how we do it, historically how we would do it, and now how we would do it, we will take you through that. And how can Dataiku help? Before I get into it, so Nikhil, Maha, Jad, all of you, can you pitch in, Maha, for example, in a traditional ETL world, before we had all of these amazing tools like Dataiku, how would you go about such a problem? And how did you do it in your previous stints?
Sure, Geetika. So with my experience of dealing with ETL tools, it was very cumbersome because each time there was a change, we had to go back to the source and the complete process of it had to be taken care of. And every change that happens is again has to go through multiple iterations to inform multiple departments. And it is very difficult sometimes when there are larger workflows that you're developing and there's a small change and the whole workflow has to be reworked upon, and then it has to be changed and revised and then be worked. So that was really being difficult for us. And also apart from the fact it was a separate tool, like it's a standalone thing. So we have to do ETL at one level, and any other processes with regards to the visualization then has to be taken through a different tool. The data preparation has to be done through a different tool. And then the whatever data warehouse processing and all has to be done through a different tool. So we had multiple tools to handle different requirements. Whereas that's where the primary problem was, and we were always looking for a tool which was end-to-end, wherein it's more scalable, easy to use, user friendly, as well as less coding, because that's the bit on the ice.
Thank you, Maha. And Nikhil, I'll come to you in a bit because there are models that you worked on as developer, and we will show you how amazing it is to use some auto AI here. So hope everyone can see my demo screen here. We are gonna do the live demo for you. I have described the problem statement for you, where we are basically going to forecast the sales for a particular department to help the management in terms of knowing what kind of resources they should leverage, what kind of stocking of supply they should do. So it will help the entire supply chain management as well as resource management. And you can imagine what it translates to in terms of operational efficiency, the cost savings, and obviously this is what any of your organizations would be looking at. We kept it a generic use case. So I know we've got diverse customers today from different industries, banking, government, telecom, all of that. And so it could probably relate. And the next one is a slightly different one as well. So as you can see my screen, let's start with what management really wants. They want dashboards, right? And they want to have dashboards to be able to tell them what are the insights on the different stores, right? So if you're with me on that screen, what you could see is average of sales by number of customers, some of these statistics, some of sales of particular customers. Not only that, they also want to see insights on forecasting. So for at any point, what kind of business is my particular store gonna give? So have a look here, for example. So this is the end result you would like as management and as dashboarding to give you, so that you can get some meaningful insights. So for example, what is the sum of predicted sale by date? So if you can see per date, what's the predicted sale? As well, you can drill down into a particular store and see what is the average of prediction by store ID. So there are multiple stores, and as per competitive landscape, if there is a competition store around, how much do I need to stock? Because this is what my predicted sale is, right? So I hope so far so good. This is the kind of output you need to look at. And as Maha explained to you, as data managers or as basically end-to-end analysts, we traditionally used to do a lot of that. But here we have created a forecasting sales project, and just see the kind of collaborative tool it is. It's a sample project where basically all of my team, including Maha as ETL expert, data engineers Nagesh and Nidhi, data scientist Nikhil, people you see on the screen, and they have witnessed the journeys in a very difficult way, gonna work as one collaborative platform. And here I also capture the business goal. We also have different tabs here in terms of exploring the project with the flow, data cleansing. So, any typical data journey is including data wrangling, then, building the model, the data science model, training it, predicting it, and then scoring it, right? So I'm going to show you that end to end in a bit. And this is how we could do it. So let's get to the flow now in terms of how do we do this. So as an analyst, Maha, what kind of data, for example, you would always look at? Would you pitch in?
Yes, Geetika, sure. As ideally, I would look into data which is easier for me to process, usually from multiple data sets, including the historical data set and other sample data. I have mostly raw data, which is unprocessed, unclean data. So I would prefer that my data has to be cleansed in a proper way, and my algorithms for that is easier. So typically, we write a lot of code for us to identify. So which means that all the data has to be in a specific format for us to progress that code. So if I write one code, that has to be catering to all the data sets. But that is not always the case, right? Because there's no one formula fit all. Because we have diverse data, distinguished data, so it's cumbersome. But then when you're using this tool, we obviously have an easier way to, if you're right clicking on any of these columns, for example, you always have the option to rename, delete, and do a bit of metadata management.
I'll show that. Level. Yes, absolutely. So I'll show that a bit. So you got a flavor of what kind of data. So as an analyst, for example, Maha now was equipped. She had two data sets. This is one data set where she has the historical data in terms of a store, particular sales, the customers, and different other schemas that are there. And what I'm trying to show you is, in a very simple way, we can just ingest that entire data, and this is now already mapped into a project where we have the meanings assigned to it, where I will show you how we can easily even do the data wrangling with the data preparation and visual recipes. And similar to that, we have another. So there are two data sets that Maha as an analyst has here. She has the historical data, and she also has the store description data, which also has different parameters in terms of, competitive landscape. So how far is, for example, the competition from my store? What's the competition open since when time, which time, the year, and the overall statistics. Now, what we want to do as data analysts, we want to basically make sure that we do a bit of a data wrangling on the historical data. So, for example, what we were just explaining to you, there's a simple tool here. If you see on the right, there are multiple tools, right? And what we've done here is we've taken a tool. There are also different recipes, like visual recipes and code recipes. And for the same data set, which we've just imported from an Excel, for example, it could be in any form in CSV, we've done a lot of data wrangling in a very simple way. For example, we've done the parse data command. So just you can see how visually you can even look at how the data has been parsed here. For example, the data parsed year column has been created. And then you can just select this. As well, there are other things that we've done. For example, compute the time difference between the data, to prepare the data, to do data quality checks. So data has been parsed here, data has been cleansed here. Then again, we've done, different extraction of the data. So for example, even if you want to delete one particular column, let's say I want to delete this column, right? So all I need to do is delete this. And then if you see here it says add a new step, and it shows on my left panel. And just imagine in a traditional way with all the tools or MySQL or ETL tools, and without naming any of those, we would have to write a lot of those scripts and the schemas we had to analyze, and everything here is visually available to you. So
Geetika, I'd like to add one point here. So in the other systems which you're using, you usually have to write the code and then wait for the system to do the magic. So you don't know until the whole process is done if your data is actually in the format that you require or not. But here, as you showcased, right, whatever process is being done, it's right in front of your eyes. So it's easy for you to quickly change the logics. If you have to do any change on that, all of that is just done in a jiffy. So that's really advantageous.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maha. And if you look at this, for example, so this is the data that I cleansed, and I showed you just 4 or 5 data wrangling items that we did. This is so simple. And then we can even go to sales, for example, and we can even analyze each one of those columns. So it shows you statistics, which are out of box again. So you can look at the overall data and see what's my data like, what's the mean, what's the median, what's the statistics overall, how is it clustered? And, this gives so much insight, and you don't need any coding skills so far, right? Now let's get back to the most important part. So now you've got 2 data sets, but then you want to join them. And again, coming from the ETL world, traditionally joining 2 data sets would mean writing a lot of scripts, right? Maha, again, how did you used to do, for example, in Informatica? Can you explain that?
Sure, Geetika. So we usually had we had transformations which we used, like the join transformation itself, but you had to be very specific in terms of giving which columns that you're mapping from 2 of them. And then it's like manually need to write all of them. You cannot just drag and drop all of them. So you need to write the code for them. You need to ensure that both the columns are matching, the data types are matching, as against here, when you're pulling in 2 columns, it shows that. So right away, you can see both the data types for each of them. Yes. You can see if it's the right kind of, it will match, which of them match or not. In that, that's not the case. You have to see, and then you have to manually do all of that. Wherein you already get a prompt of what is right, what is matching, and then you can go ahead with that.
Thank you, Maha. So this is in front of you now, in a traditional versus how we are doing it, as simple as just defining the join. So for example, store is the common column, select the column. So I will select these, and then I can deselect any one of them, and then simply run it. And then, you've got this entire join. So let me show you the output of this. So what we've done so far, we've defined the problem statement. We've imported data from 2 different data sets that we have from the store, as well as the historical sales. We've cleansed that data, done the data wrangling, parsed the data, all of that in no time. And then again, now we've got join data, training data ready. Now, this is where now I'm going to hand over to a data scientist. Nikhil will pitch in now shortly, and then we'll see how you can visualize this data. So see, for example, two data sets got joined seamlessly. The store data as well as the sales data is all here. Okay, and I could now also look at the different statistics. I could look at different charts here. So just to show you certain charts, for example, before you start training your data science models, you probably also want to look at how my customers are vis-a-vis the sales, right? So for example, this gives you certain statistics of sales versus different customers. So, and then certain other out of box, very seamlessly, you can see, for example, I hope you can see this, sales of customers, and also giving you the competition distance, right? So this gives you additional, additional view into this. And all of this being done again in a very seamless way. And if you see here, there are so many different graphic possibilities. Could look at histograms, stacks, and you don't have to use, so far you don't have to use any of the visualization tools, Power BI or Tableau or any of those. These are all out of box. With I'm just looking at one tool which is installed on my system, and I'm showing you the demo from there, right? I hope so far.
I just wanted to add that when
Yeah.
we do it the traditional way with Python, we have to install certain Python libraries. For example, let's look at Matplotlib, or let's look at Seaborn. So these are
Yes.
all data systems that you have to set up separately, and they involve a lot of manual written code. Whereas over here, you literally just have to select what
Absolutely.
sort of graph you want to use. Which is
Absolutely. And I
really
will
good.
come to that in a bit, Nikhil. I will show you the libraries, and then you can also pitch in again to say how you used to do it and import one of your Python programs there, for example.
Absolutely.
Now, so far as a data analyst, we've done that. We've joined the two data sets. We've done the data wrangling. The data quality is in place. So now, it's time for me to, bring in the data scientist and tell him, look, guys, we are ready. So just see, again, being a collaborative platform, it's as simple as, I'm just saying new discussion, and I'll say, Nikhil, let's say, Nikhil, it's ready. Ready, and you take over, right? So, and then we will ask him to take from here. Okay. So just imagine how, and then Nikhil as a data scientist, because he's busy, he does not want to get into the data analysis side of it, and the tool is doing it seamlessly, or Maha does it using this tool. And then he hands it over and he takes over from this point. Now comes the important part, and that's where what Nikhil was saying is very important. So you need to be able to train the data. And now let's go to this. Let me show you how simple it is, and then we'll come to the model that we've built already. So you've got different columns here. You go to any of the column. What do you want to predict? For example, you want to predict sales, right? I want to be able to predict the sales outcome in a particular store for a particular branch. So what you could do is you could just create prediction model. Okay, and exactly how Nikhil was saying. So for example, I'm a data scientist and I want to spend more time in getting some meaningful insights. I don't want to now go the traditional way of writing the codes, Python or using TensorFlow, but see the beauty of this tool. Again, Jad will take you through it in a more exhaustive way. But the quick prototypes it provides now, there are different options here, right? So I can do it a quick prototype which use scikit-learn, or I could do any of the other traditional ones, and I could also use one of my own algorithms. It provides you all of that. And then we say create. And in no time, just see, now the system has already started training, and then it says train, and the model is basically already trained. And then it picks up two of the algorithms here, for example, random forest and regression. And just look at the design choices that you have. So you don't have to define what percentage of data is my train, what is my test data. It already does all of that for you. So it splits the data. For example, here it picks up one first 100,000 records, and that's, you can also change it if you want to limit the number of records or increase it. The metrics are being automatically taken care of. And one very key important part of it is the features handling, where just see, the system again has automatically done feature handling for you, just picked up what is not relevant. For example, homo interval is not relevant to train the data, so it's disabled right now. Some auto scaling has already happened, rescaling has happened, so many features that you can play with. And then obviously a lot of feature generation, but also coming to the algorithms, like the system has picked up appropriate algorithms for you, the random forest and the regression. But you could also now, what, for example, Nikhil was saying, you could also add your custom Python model here. So all the Python models, Nikhil, you had written for your prediction and all of the other projects you described, you could just simply import them, for example, right? Or our customers, if they've created, or you could select any one of them and start designing it. Okay. And then look at the hyperparameters as well. And then, there are certain advancements. So guys, this is just to give you a flavor, and let's get back now in terms of seeing what's the output. And I'm going to discard the changes and see now what has happened. So for example, this, the training has happened, the training prediction has happened. Now the training data set has been created, the data has been scored as well. And let's look at what the scoring, test data scoring has happened. What we wanted is basically for us to be able to score this data and to give us the output in terms of prediction. So you see the scores here. The scores have been created, the prediction score has been created, and you could look at some charts and the statistics and see how beautifully now you can also, so this is giving an output in terms of for a particular store on a particular date, what's the average of the prediction that we can look at. And it can also help you with different other statistics. You could also add, for example, different other parameters and see over different particular time slots, what is the average of a store and prediction by a particular store. Isn't it beautiful? And how simple it is. You don't need any of the coding background. You don't need to have multiple diverse silos of people working. You can all work together. And one particular thing that I could show you here as well is the beauty of the random forest, for example. And I think at the end, when we are data scientists, the business really wants to know what are the variables on a particular day which are more important than anything else. So what I mean to say is, for example, if I'm a store, let's say I'm the head of Carrefour and I've got multiple branches here, and I want to see what are those top 3 parameters which are important in terms of predicting or impacting my business model. So day of the week, for example, promo, competition, distance are the 3 top rated variables, which are the ones which are impacting the results and the meaningful insights I'm getting. So I know as a branch head, then these are the 3 things that I need to focus on. And just look at the decision trees it builds out of box. The decision tree it builds here, if you can see. Then partial dependence, again scatter plots. So the data predicted versus the actual data, and what's the accuracy. So this is your this is also showing the kind of variance, and it's very close. The scatter plot is very close to the actual prediction, and that's where the error is very less, which says that obviously my model is good, right, in terms of accuracy. So again, you could have a lot of trial on these tools and you could play around with it, but just wanted to give you a glimpse of this. And again, it can be all done on one user interface. It's got different recipes, which now very shortly Jad will take you through, as well as, a couple of other options to play with. Isn't it beautiful? Okay, so without further ado, because this was one forecasting sales, and just to summarize what we've done, what I have done here, I've combined 2 data sets here, one on the store, one on the historical data, very quickly done data wrangling on it, checked the data quality, removed any unrequired columns, done the date parsing, on these 2, prepared the training set, handed over to my data scientist, who very easily within the system with auto AI used certain tools to predict that. And then we are testing that with some test data. And then I showed you the output, create the accuracy. And guys, this is seamless for any industry, any use cases like Nikhil spoke about. And we are happy to take this and implement it for your different customer use cases. So at this point, let me stop sharing, and we'll come back for the quiz and for the other wraparound. But over to you, Jad, if you want to share the next use case demo on the attrition.
Absolutely. Thank you, Geetika, Maha, and Nikhil for a great demo. So the way we're going to continue, so I'm going to share my screen.
Do you want me to share the PPT?
No, it's fine. I think I can present it and then I can show the demo from my laptop, if that's okay. So I hope everyone can see my screen.
Right, we can.
All right, perfect. So what we're going to do in the next maybe 15 minutes is use the same tool, the same solution, which is Dataiku DSS, to solve a different business problem. And the business problem we're going to try to tackle this time is around employee attrition. So the idea is to show you how a flexible platform like Dataiku DSS can help you solve multiple use cases. So no matter what your business is or what your industry is operating in, we believe any use case where you need any kind of predictive analytics can be solved with Dataiku. So the problem we're trying to solve is really around trying to predict employees in our organization who are most likely going to resign, maybe in the next month or two. So as an HR department, this is a business problem which has cost impact on us because the cost of replacing personnel in today's enterprise can be quite large. So if we can forecast who amongst our employees are most likely going to resign based on our predictive algorithm, we can maybe take proactive action if needed. We can help change this employee's decision, or maybe we can activate hiring earlier so that maybe we can save on the cost. So the business problem we're really trying to solve is to predict employee attrition. And the objective is we're going to look at our list of employees and try to predict what is the likelihood of each employee leaving in the next month. So how are we going to do this? We're going to use the data that we have. So we have, luckily, some demographics for these employees because these are our employees and we have data for these employees. We also have some historical performance reviews. So we know whom among these employees have done well, whom have been rated high by their managers. And we also have some unstructured data in the form of surveys. So they have filled, or these employees have filled some surveys around their job satisfaction. So we're going to use this unstructured data to train our model in order to make predictive decisions for the future. So how can Dataiku help? So Dataiku offers a collaborative, flexible, and scalable platform. So these are really the three keywords which we believe enable enterprise AI, so AI at scale. And we're really going to touch on these three key features of Dataiku in the demo. And at the end, a model is really not that useful on its own. We really want to operationalize it. So one example of how you can operationalize it is by building dashboards. So we're going to look at our list of employees and we're going to try to predict what is the percentage who are likely to leave in the next month and who are they so that we can identify them, but also look at some analytics. So how we can correlate this decision with the sentiment that they have done in the survey or with the years they have spent serving us as an organization. So we're going to look at all of this when looking at Dataiku. So just also to give you an example of what we're trying to solve at the end. So we have this list of employees where we have different features to these employees, when they were hired, how much they were rated, where they're based out of from. And ideally, I want to use this model to be able to predict for each of these records whether this particular employee will leave or not. So we're going to use a Dataiku platform. And the first thing we want to highlight around collaboration is that Dataiku is completely server-centric, so everything can be accessed from the browser. So gone are the days where users would have to work on individual machines, build models on their own. We really believe in a collaborative world. And when you have Dataiku as a platform implemented in your data center or in your infrastructure, all the users who need access to these business use cases or need access to build these predictive analytics can log into one platform, and then they can collaborate together on building these predictive analytics use case. So today, as an organization, you might have use case related to employee attrition, but also marketing might have another use case related to high revenue customer prediction, or maybe some other use cases could be related to forecast sale or customer lifetime value prediction, or predicting churn or predicting maintenance. So the idea really is to use this single platform and augment it by implementing as many use cases as you want in order to meet your business needs. But then once you have developed this model, how can you put this into the hands of business users? How can you put this model into the hand of someone who would like to predict employee attrition without them going into the details of the project? You can, as a user in Dataiku, develop what we call applications. So these are nice GUIs with very simple buttons where you can upload data to enable users to actually use the models that were developed in the backend. And also, if you scroll down a bit, you can see dashboards. So the visualization that you create in Dataiku can be made public and propagated across the entire enterprise so that you can really share knowledge and insights across the enterprise. So collaboration is very important because now, as a user who is working on the employee attrition use case, I can see what my peers are doing in marketing or what my peers are doing in asset management to try to collaborate, to try to get some or reuse some of the assets they have built in my current work. So let me log into this project, which is employee attrition, and I can see all the teammates who are working with me on the project. So we no longer have to update each other in offline channels. We really use Dataiku to monitor the work and update each other on the work we've done. So if I scroll down a bit, Geetika has spoken about the main interface of the project. So I'll try to touch a bit on some of the features which make it collaborative. So if you look at the components that make a project, there's the flow, there's lab, there are dashboards, and there's wiki. And wiki is really the place where you can put documentation to make it easier for someone who's new to a project to familiarize themselves with the context of the project. What's the business problem we're trying to solve? How we can solve this problem using Dataiku. So you can put this documentation in the wiki article so that a new user can come and understand what the project is about. But then the real development of a project happens in the flow, because this is where really all the design and development happens. So let's go to the flow to understand how it is structured. So you will see that visually, it looks a lot like the sales forecasting project. So you see the same set of colors. So maybe let's go a bit into the details of these colors. So you have the blue squares, which are data sets. So these represents the data that you will be using in order to implement your actual business use case. You have the circles, and these are recipes. So recipes can come in two forms. They can either come as visual recipes, which are visual icons that you can use to process data in a visual manner. So it's things like preparing, like sampling, like grouping. So now you can use these visual icons in order to process your data in a visual manner, but they can also come as code. So if you're a coder and you would like to use Python in order to process your data, you can do that in Dataiku. So back to the flexibility, now it's really coders and visual users who are now on a single platform collaborating on building this single data science use case. But then if I go to the right a bit, I can see the green components here, and this is the machine learning. So this is when we feed our training model with some data, and then we tell Dataiku, please train these models on our behalf and come back to us with a model that is able to predict whether a particular employee is likely to leave. So the flow reads from left to right, and if we were to read what we were doing in this flow, so we're actually connecting to data. So we're using the data that we have, the service data, the CRM, the historical data. We're doing some processing, and this processing is being done with visual and with code tools. We have a clean labeled data set, which we're going to use to train our machine learning models and leverage Dataiku AutoML capabilities to train these models. And then at the end of the day, my goal is really to predict or make these predictions for this CSV file, which I have shown, to be able to predict for every employee whether they are likely to leave or not. So just to give you a flavor of the final output, this is the final data set where we have for every employee, what is the actual prediction and what is the explanation. So why are we predicting that this employee is going to leave? Is it because the sentiment? Is it because the date they were hired, or is it because the age of service? So all of this is statistically done in Dataiku. So from here, once you have the results of these predictions, you can visualize them, you can connect them to your database, but the idea is you're going to use this model in order to build your predictions. So just a couple of points around flexibility and scalability, because these were really the features that enable enterprise AI. So in terms of flexibility, we support flexibility at the different stages. So we saw how we can support flexibility in terms of data processing. By clicking on any data set, you can use either the visual recipe or the code recipe in order to process your data. But we also support flexibility in the data sources. So you can, in Dataiku, connect to different types of data. So you can upload files if some of the data is stored in CSV files. You can connect to Hadoop if you have a Hadoop cluster. You can connect to SQL if you have a SQL database, or to cloud if you're connecting to, or if you have data in cloud. And the best part is you can, as part of the same project, connect to these different data sources without actually moving everything to one place. So as part of one project, you can connect to some data in SQL, some data in SAP, some data coming from CSV, some data coming from your Hadoop, without actually bringing all this data in one place. And this is all possible from the visual GUI in Dataiku. And if you zoom a bit, you will see that when you look at these data sets, you see an icon inside that indicates where this data is stored. So an empty elephant indicates that this is a Postgres SQL. So my data is in Postgres SQL. And this indicates that this is coming from a CSV file. So you see that as far as my data sources are concerned, I have 2 coming from SQL, 1 coming from CSV, and then I'm going to use these 3 data sources in order to implement my use case. So around flexibility, we support connecting to flexible or a variety of data sources, but also one important point is around data movement. So when we connect to a SQL database, data is not moved to Dataiku. So data will stay on SQL. All what will happen is a pointer will be established indicating that the data is in SQL, and in case you need to process it, this is where it happens. The reason why we do this is because we support offloading to the infrastructure. So now we have moved all of the data to SQL, and we decided to join them using the visual recipe. So we're going to join these 3 data sources based on the employee ID. So we can define the key on which we want to do the join. And then we can decide what are the columns we would like to keep as a result of the join. But then when you actually want to run this recipe, Dataiku will give you the choice to choose the engine in which you want to do this computation. So Dataiku in this case detected that all these 3 data sets come from SQL. So it suggests that instead of moving all the data to DSS, to Dataiku, why don't you run this in the database itself? So one way you would avoid data movement. Second, you would be leveraging the infrastructure that you spent money on and that you have invested in order to do the thing that it has been designed best to do, which is join based on SQL datasets. But then the story doesn't end here, because if you have a data lake, you can use that to do Spark, or you can use Hive or Impal. So obviously here I don't have Spark configured, but then if you had Spark configured, you can leverage these kind of technologies from the visual interface without you having to involve IT or experts in order to actually do this processing in a scalable manner. And this is really what will allow you to implement tens or hundreds of use cases using the same platform, because the compute is really not happening on the server. The compute is always offloaded to the infrastructure. And then if you would like to understand what is happening in the backend, what kind of SQL query is sent to the SQL database, you can actually click on View Query, and you will see what is the SQL query that is sent to the database. If you want to customize this, you can convert this to a SQL recipe, and then you will have code that you can update using pure code. So starting from a visual recipe, we were able to look at the code that is running behind it. And then if we want to customize this using SQL or using another code, we can convert this to a SQL recipe, and then you can add this to the flow.
Thank you, Jad. So sorry, just being mindful of time, because I want to give the chance to our customers to win prizes today. We've got certain cash vouchers for them. And I know, you know, it's so interesting. So probably we can also take offline sessions, one-on-one sessions with everyone. You wrap up in next 2 minutes, and then we'll open up to the comments, question answers, and the quiz, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll not touch on the next components, because these were really covered earlier in the demo. So you can use Dataiku visual and code recipes in order to do the processing. And then the end result is you're going to use this model that you have deployed in Dataiku to score data. So one example of the visualization which we have built in Dataiku is such. So we're looking at the new data. We're going to try to predict amongst our employees who are likely to leave, who are not. So I find out that 49 out of the 210 are most likely going to leave. And then if I try to correlate this with the sentiment that they have seen in the survey, you can publish these dashboards. And then you can also visualize different metrics related to the model performance, related to the way you've done training. And also if you want to maybe filter the employees that were predicted to be leaving and the kind of explanations, you can also build dashboards which include these insights. So just one final note, once you have trained this model, you can actually deploy it as a REST API, all part of Dataiku. And then when the model is deployed as a REST API, this is when you can integrate it with the rest of the infrastructure. So I'll leave with this. Thank you very much. And yeah, back to you, Geetika.
Thank you, Jad. Amazing as always. And I'm sure our customers are overawed looking at the functionality, the simplicity, and the collaborative nature of this. And I'm sure we have a lot to discuss. I request Naveen to unmute everyone. So if there are any questions live and comments, we can take up. Meanwhile, Faisal, your question has been acknowledged and answered, hopefully. I also urge all of you to put in your comments either on chat or speak out the moment you're unmuted. I hope really you've enjoyed the two demos me and Jad have done. And there are multiple other use cases, but obviously within 1 hour limited time, there's limited stuff we can do. Actually, it caters to all industries, all verticals, all use cases, and we've got so many of them already ready. We are eager to have half a day free workshop for each one of you to look at where you are, what your pain points are, what you want to do. And my consultants, me and my team, along with our partner Dataiku, are more than happy to have dedicated sessions with you. So appreciate any of your comments, involvement by the time Maha is bringing up the quiz. Are there any other questions at this point? Any closing comments from you, Suvir, Sid, Jad, my entire team, Nagesh, who's also a veteran in terms of data science? It's open to anyone, please.
No comments as such. Just wanted to thank all the customers for joining on time, and I hope this session was something that you were looking forward to. We as Dataiku and Alpha Data, we would like to obviously talk to you more in detail, take things through with your data, to see how you can get to the next level. So this is obviously our prima facie, and we would like to do that with Alpha Data moving forward. So looking forward to your comments, looking forward to working with you guys in the future. And once again, thank you so much for joining on time, and to the great team at Alpha Data for organizing this. It was super.
Indeed, our pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. This is Nagesh here, and it's been a wonderful session. I would say it will be equally wonderful for all the participants, whoever have got in to check out on what's happening on the AI side. I would love to add a couple of quick points here as somebody who has wetted her hands in data science and know how difficult it has been in the initial phases, 2012, 13, and 14, when we were working on data science. I do had nightmares when we were handling even 500 even 10 GB to 20 GB of data and running on distributed environments. Even simple tasks would have been a big nightmare. Like I remember we were sitting during the nights and working on the scripts to run for the whole night and see how the outcomes are. And many times, to be honest with you, many times we had to redo it on the next night, like, because we had very less resources to utilize on. And then on how the things have moved on from just standard Hadoop environments to how Spark has pitched in, and how Spark has really given us leverage of running scripts. And I give you one example I had gone through. We were actually processing one of the Sensex data for in one of the states in India, and we were running on Hadoop, and it took us almost like 19 hours to run one simple script. So the kind of data was also pretty much high, like almost like we were looking at around 8 crores or 9 crores of data. And then how Spark has actually revolutionized the way when the in-memory processing came into picture, and how quickly we were able to bring out outcomes out of the data and all. And now when I see that Dataiku, I see some of those pains which we were facing in integrating with different systems, connecting with Spark, connecting with any of the RDBMS databases, or even the NoSQLs. I see there's a huge catch here in terms of how we can utilize this Dataiku as a tool which can quickly create your own workflows, connect with different systems, bringing that agility into the whole process of delivering end-to-end solutions. I see a huge value here, and I think this is something everyone who is as a part of this presentation would love to utilize, because I know that when somebody is really into the crux of handling things from end to end, taking data, wrangling the data, adding even the missing values sometimes would have been a big challenge for us. How do we take advantage of that and all? I think Dataiku should be a wonderful tool in hand to take the advantage in terms of how we can leverage the power of this tool. Like, So I think I'm really elated to be a part of this team who have been working on this. So thank you very much, Geetika.
Thank you, Nagesh. And I know you're very passionate about it because he got very overwhelmed when he saw this. He's joined our team recently, and this is coming from his passion. And of course, we love to talk to you one-on-one. We can have dedicated sessions. Thank you for all your questions. We acknowledge them, and we will also comment. And please feel free, before you leave, please feel free to put in more questions, more comments, or if any of you want to speak on the event now, you're unmuted. Please go ahead.
Woman has the questions as well in the Q&A. Yeah, there is one question in the Q&A.
Yeah, I can answer it on
Jad,
the Q&A.
Yes.
Or we answer it live.
Yeah, Jad, go ahead.
Yeah. So the main advantage, so obviously it's a comparison. The main advantage is the architecture. So Dataiku is infrastructure agnostic. It can run on Azure, but it can also run on-premise and other cloud providers. So in case you decide to move out of Azure, you're not really tied to an infrastructure. And second, while being tightly integrated to Azure data sources. So it integrates with the storage, with the compute, etc. And then third, and most importantly, in Dataiku, you're really not tied to the compute engines. So with Azure, for example, you have Databricks for Spark. With Dataiku, you're really free to use Spark, you're free to use AKS. So from a total TCO, it can help you realize a lower TCO by leveraging the cheapest compute that's available.
Thank you, Jad. Right. Any other comments from any other customers or questions, clarifications? Right. If there is nothing else, we are always available. I'll drop Maha. I think why don't we drop our contact numbers on the chat here for everyone, and just give our mobile numbers. We are available for you 24/7. And on behalf of Alpha Data and Dataiku, we really wish to thank you for your esteemed presence today. I know it's just before Ramadan and a lot of tasks to be accomplished, but it's always a pleasure to have you in our forums. And we look forward to partnering with you, helping you in embracing this journey and holding one-on-one sessions with you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.